I am Daniel Abunales, a graduate of Master of Peace and Conflict Studies from the University of Sydney.
And I'm Nelia Agbon, a graduate of Master in International Development Practice from Monash University.
The story we will be sharing with you is about our journey as like minded individuals passionate about helping young Mindanawans become regenerative change makers in their homeland.
It all started in 2010. I came across a government plan envisioning peace and development in Mindanao by 2030, but hardly was the youth mentioned. I thought it was absurd. So, with Kids for Peace Foundation, Danielle and I brainstormed on a project engaging young change makers in planning, which is usually a technical process. We also recommended that their outputs be communicated to government planners. As firm believers of authentic youth engagement, we invited young people to take charge as the management team of the project. They must have been so fired up because immediately they had a battle cry: We matter.
Thus, Moving Mindanao was born, an initiative shaped by young Mindanawans who want to assert their right to be heard because they matter. We were their mentors. It felt like passing on the torch of leadership to them. The team first gathered a diverse group of young people from all over the island to a camp where they first learned about the rich and complex history of Mindanao. That session elicited aha moments among them.
The knowledge that their ancestors lived in harmony but became victims of external divisive forces was vital to their understanding that violence is not an inherent characteristic ascribed to certain groups. Violence in Mindanao has deep roots in historical injustice. The young people began to question their othering.
This is Aliyah, founder of Kids for Peace when she was 12 and one of the movers sharing her memories of moving Mindanao.
Understanding about our shared history allowed us to explore our vision of Mindanao in a space of trust and openness. We talked about issues we faced and how to address these using the power of creative forms like books, films, and photos. This creative process took months. Along the way, we developed a strong bond crossing boundaries of religion, ethnicity, or education.
As a mentor for filmmaking, my role was to help them creatively communicate their voices through moving images. I remember how tireless and driven they were being in a space where they knew they mattered.
I remember the day that they talked to government planners. They were so nervous, but they took the courage to assert that as Mindanawans, they mattered in any plan for Mindanao. Notice how tables have been turned in these photos. Youth managing the meeting with adults, and see how they presented their issues and vision.
On this slide, Josiah, coordinator for Region 9, shares that the experience taught him that their concerns can be conveyed in a creative way.
It seemed the perfect ending, but guess what? These young movers continued whenever their Mindanao needed them most, like in 2012 when Cagayan de Oro was devastated by Tropical Storm Sendong.
They organize psychosocial support for child survivors who are often invisible during disasters. The young organizers fittingly describing this initiative as sinag, like the rays of light evoking hope among victims of disaster. Now the mentees have become the mentors. Here are Josiah, James, Aliyah, Ralph, the young and back as facilitators and mentors of the creative forms.
They did it again in 2017, in the aftermath of the Marawi siege. This time, the intent was to build inner resilience among children. Thus, they called their initiative as Creating Sinag Within. Joining them were university students in Marawi who were themselves victims of the violent attacks by ISIS forces. 11 years since moving Mindanao, these young dreamers continue being leaders in their chosen fields, inspired by their shared vision and collective journey for their homeland. Indeed, they continue to radiate sinag amidst divisiveness and darkness.
Reflecting on our moving Mindanao journey, we as mentors seem to have done well in planting the seeds of regeneration with the young Mindanawans.
In these challenging times, these young people persist in writing their own narratives about their Mindanao, bringing in creative, illuminating energies which are essential to regeneration.